Welcome to Massive Late Fee, and now your hosts, Mark and Carol. Hey everybody, welcome back to Massive Late Fee. My name is Mark. With me as always is my girlfriend Carol. How you doing, Carol?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Not a lot of news in the entertainment world this week, but I will say that over the weekend I tried this new thing. It's called Laser Quest. It's a laser tag place where basically you go in to this room, you dress up in, you put on this harness that has these laser targets on them, and then you have a laser gun, and you go into a dark room with a bunch of different places you can hide behind and stuff like that. You go in for 5 minutes and you shoot as many people as you can. You try not to get shot. Every person you shoot, you get a certain amount of points. Every time you get shot, you go down for like 5 seconds where you can't do anything, and you get a certain amount of points taken away from you, and then accuracy is taken into account as well, and you see who comes in first place.
Oh, gee, that sounds fun.
It was fun.
Who did you do that with?
My friend, I did it with my friend Mike. You know Mike.
I do.
And Bill went with us, and Ryan Seipke.
Oh, okay. Anybody named, I don't know, Jenny there with you?
No.
No.
Jenny Sullivan? No.
Yeah, I have some news.
Okay.
Cause I saw you and Jenny talking. I saw you talking all close and quiet. What was that about?
Okay, so Jenny. Jenny needs help with her history. So she was asking me if I would tutor her in history. So I was going through different history stuff with her. You know how I get when I'm talking history, I get kind of animated and excited.
Uh-huh. I don't like the way that you were looking at each other. I don't like this. You don't just tutor some girl without talking to me about it.
So now I have to talk to you every time I want to take on a new tutor?
If you're going to
or new
spend
2D?
time alone with some hot girl who's going to look at you the way she looks at you, yeah, you do.
Okay, well, you don't have anything to worry about as far as Jenny goes. I don't know how you think she was looking at me, but you know that I only have eyes for you, sweetie.
Uh-huh. I'm not happy, but whatever.
Okay, I won't tutor Jenny anymore then.
Good. Thank you.
Is that what you want to hear?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you can tell Jenny that she's going to fail history.
There are other tutors.
Yeah, but there's nobody as good as me.
That may be true, dear. I really don't care.
Oh, so we've had a good week, I suppose. despite that, yeah, we've continued to expand our reach. I heard from a friend of mine that someone in Illinois was listening to our tapes.
Wow, I wonder how they got them all the way out in Illinois.
Well, I know that some people are mailing them to cousins and pen pals, friends, and stuff like that. Yeah, just putting them in an envelope and sending them in the mail.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, that's things are spreading, which is nice. But again, if you have any questions for us, anything that you want to hear, you can put a note in my locker. If you have any money that you want to donate to our cause because you find this entertaining, you can put a $1 into Carol's locker. And we'll read all your questions and we'll take all your dollars.
Yes, we will.
But so we'll get into to TV picks today, and I'll tell you. Oh, the other thing that I wanted to mention is that Bill introduced me to this thing called POGs.
What the hell is that?
They're like these little cardboardy kind of. I think they originated from milk caps, actually, but they're like cardboard things. They have different designs on them. There's some for like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There's some that I think are like Transformers, and just different different things like that, different designs, TV shows. There's a whole bunch of stuff. And what you do is you stack them all together. There's a front side and a back side, and you take this big, heavy one that's usually made of like some kind of metal, and you slam it down. It's called a slammer, and you hit the pile, and all of them that flip over to the tail side, you get to keep. It's sort of like it's kind of like marbles, but a little but a little bit different because you get to take each other's POG cap things. Yeah, I think they're having their. It's getting bigger, and I think that McDonald's and stuff are having giveaways for them and things like that, in the Happy Meals and stuff.
Interesting. I'll have to try that. I have not seen that yet.
It's interesting. I did a little more of the online thing. I spent a couple hours on there the other day talking to some people in the chat rooms. You were talking about the Dungeons and Dragons stuff that they're doing, right?
Yeah, I stumbled
Carol, a lot of people, not to interrupt you, sorry, but a lot of people don't know Carol does a lot of role-playing stuff, and she has a group that she gets together with that are mostly guys that I don't get jealous about, that she does Dungeons and Dragons and stuff with.
Yeah, well, most of you who know what kind of people play Dungeons and Dragons, you probably know that he doesn't have anything to be jealous about. Now, I stumbled into something very strange. People are playing online. Now, it's really cool. Like, I was excited when I came in. Everybody's pretending like we're in a tavern. We're talking. You've got characters. And, I'm like, awesome. I can play Dungeons and Dragons whenever I want. But then it got creepy. This guy asked me if I wanted to go off with him. And he was, like, flirty. And I'm really...
And I have nothing to worry about, okay?
I'm really thinking that these people, when they're talking and they leave, that they're having some kind of weird internet sex, like phone sex, but on the internet.
Like typing sex?
I don't know. I mean,
interesting.
It's just, I get the impression that that's where it's going.
Huh. Well, that is certainly odd. They say that any time that human beings come up with something new, that they figure out a way to turn it into sex.
That's true.
They had books, they turned that into sex. Magazines, they turned that into sex. Obviously television and movies and stuff go that way as well.
I mean, don't get me wrong here. It's kind of cool in a way. I mean, you've got people calling me milady and I like getting to interact and pretend that I'm in that world. But here's the thing. Most people who play these games are guys.
Right.
So all of you out there, maybe
that's something that had not occurred to me. If you could pose because no one can see your face, right?
Right.
So you could pretend to be a girl.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's what I'm thinking is probably happening there.
Yeah, and this is why I stay away from these things. I stay into the music chat rooms and talk about music and things like that.
Well, the music chat rooms are fun too.
Yeah, well, I never really got into Mike is into the role playing stuff too.
Yeah.
But I don't.
Mike and I played before.
But I don't really get into it that much. I played a couple times with them and spent an hour and a half making a character.
Some of the best part right there, making the character.
Yeah, how many times can I roll some dice?
It's fun.
I've got 18 charisma points.
That means you are super charming.
I know. Well, it's a reflection of real life.
Exactly.
But TV picks of the week. So obviously, TV lineup is static, but we try to highlight some different shows every week. And this week, I watched, as usual, Saved by the Bell, The College Years. Interesting episode this week, and this is the kind of episode I think that is really going to elevate the show to, they've got like 10 million viewers. Not great. They need to get to the 20, 25, 30 million viewer range to to have a chance to be in the top 10.
So you mean you're proclaiming that Zach and Kelly are getting together didn't draw in the masses for you?
Well, I mean, how many people do we reach, But no, I don't think that it's the numbers don't look great right now. Like I said, only about 10 to 13 million people watching the show, which is not a lot. So this episode, though, I think it was very thought-provoking. Interesting episode. Not as many jokes in this episode, but this is a more serious adult approach I think they can take with the show and hit new demographics with it. So what happened is that Zach was in the student union. He was talking to Kelly. He's not sure where they stand.
Okay.
And because they go out, but they don't have a standing date plan every Saturday night, as comes up because she ends up making plans. And they're not boyfriend and girlfriend yet. They've been going out for a little while, but they're not there yet. And he wants to know. So his professor, Professor Rich, is teaching, and he's talking about seizing the day, basically. That whole Dead Poet Society thing,
okay.
Where he's talking about how it's important to live in the moment and all this stuff. And so he's leaving. This is the last class that he's teaching because he's going on sabbatical to go to Egypt to experience some more stuff. And then he'll come back and talk about that when he comes back. So the gang decide to throw him a going away party. They love this professor. So he comes to their apartment. Everyone's in the other room ready to surprise him. Zach greets him at the door. And Zach's talking about him. They sit on the couch. They're talking. And he says to the professor, I'm so I envy you because you've lived so much of life. And the professor says, Zach, I really haven't. He said, I talk a big game and I tell people that I'm going to Europe or I'm going to South America and stuff like that. And I usually just end up at my sister's house in Fresno.
No.
Right. So he says, so you're not really going to Egypt? And he says, no, this time I'm really going to do it. He's like, I've lived a careful life my whole life. I'm actually going to Egypt this time. I want to experience some things. I'm going to take my own advice, basically. So Zach says, cool, So he's like, 1 second, I'll be right back. So he goes in, tells everyone to, come in. They were waiting for Screech because Screech was getting the cake. But, of course, he messed it up.
Of course.
And so they come in, and the professor's sitting on the couch, dead.
What?
Yeah, just in pose. He was smoking a cigar, too. So he's still got the cigar in his hand.
Oh, my gosh.
So, I mean, I guess don't smoke, guys. This is part of the lesson here. But he dies. Screech comes in. It's kind of played for laughs a little bit, honestly, because they're throwing confetti at him before they realize he's dead. Screech comes in with this pyramid-shaped cake since he's going to Egypt. And, he's like, hey, lighten up, Professor. And he goes like this, and the guy falls over. And Zach says, he's dead. And Screech says, I hardly touched him. So they have a funeral for him. And at the funeral, actually right before the funeral, as they're getting ready to go to the funeral, Zach says that he's going to start taking more chances. He's going to seize the day. He's going to live in the moment and not be so careful. Slater takes the opposite lesson, that you could die at any moment, so you have to be really careful to avoid it, I guess. Although I don't know what the professor could have done to avoid his death. I mean, they don't say how he dies. I'm assuming heart attack or something like that. Right. But they don't say how he died. So, I guess just eat better.
Right.
Or whatever.
Exercise.
But anyway, so that's what Slater. But Screech or Zach says that he wants to seize the day. So he goes into where Kelly's getting ready, putting her makeup on for the funeral, and he says, "Do you love me?
Ooh.
I want to know if you love me." And she says that she's been thinking a lot about them, especially with Professor Rich dying, and that if she's going to be serious about becoming a doctor, because she's going to school to become a doctor, that's why she works in that clinic as like nurse's aide or whatever. that she really needs to focus on that, and she can't focus on relationship really. So, she says, I can't say that I love you now.
Wow.
And so, obviously, Zach's heartbroken. They go to the funeral. Zach stands up at the funeral and he says, Professor Rich always told us that we need to live life in the moment, and he wouldn't want us sitting inside on this day. Let's go play ultimate frisbee outside. And everyone just kind of ignores him, basically. But this starts the episode, like the theme of the episode of Zach doing all these crazy things. So he scales the building with one of those rock climbing lines, with the carabiner and thing, and he's rappelling down the wall, and he gets in trouble from the dean for doing that, and he he gets a motorcycle and everything, and Slater says, "Man, do you know how dangerous these things are and everything, and all this stuff," and so then it culminates with him wanting to go skydiving. So Screech says he's going to go with them, and they try to talk Slater into it, and Slater's like, no, I can't do this. And Screech tells him, whenever I was scared, I used to pretend that I was you, because you were never scared of anything, but you've become like scared of things all the time now. So Slater agrees to go with them, so they're all on the plane getting ready to jump, and before they left, Kelly found out that they were going on the thing, and she says, are you doing all this stuff because of me and everything? And he says, oh, don't flatter yourself, and all this stuff.
Well, he's pissed.
Yeah. So they're in the plane, and Screech doesn't want to go, and then Slater doesn't want to jump. And Zach says, okay, I'm going to do it, but still. So he goes to the door. The instructor's there. One thing that I thought was funny, and obviously that it's a TV show, but when you go skydiving for the first time, you go in tandem with somebody who's experienced.
Right.
So they take someone, it's usually someone that works there or someone that's done a lot of jumps, and you're strapped together basically. And you're on I think you're on the bottom so that you can see everything better. Okay. And the person that I've never gone skydiving, so I'm not 100% positive about this. But the person that goes with you, the experienced one's on the top, but you're strapped together, and they handle the ripcord basically for you, or tell you how to do it, but just so nothing goes wrong. But they're obviously all going alone because it's a TV show,
Okay.
So, but they're there, and the instructor's there. And they're in the door, and Kelly is in the office, and she calls them and says, Zach, I don't want you to do this. I don't want you to jump and everything. And then basically she says, I love you. And Zach says that she loves her too. And he's like, I'm not going to jump now. He's like, this is crazy. I'm not going to jump now. So I guess it all was for her. It seemed like it was because the professor died, and he had this epiphany of you have to live life to the fullest and live life in the moment. But I think his live life in the moment was get Kelly to be my girlfriend, and when she didn't want to, he didn't care about anything. That's what it seems like to me.
Wow.
Because then all of a sudden he didn't want to do it.
Yeah, that's not good.
It was a weird direction to take it. But so the he says, turn the plane around, we're going home. And so the plane banks, and of course the door's still open. So all three of them fall out. And then they skydive, and they pull their cords, and, they think it's fun and everything. I was thinking about how terrifying it would be to skydive. Because what if the chute doesn't open? Isn't
there a backup chute?
Yeah, but still, accidents happen. It might be rare, but, accidents happen sometimes. Where I wouldn't want to do it. It seems very frightening to me. But they land, and Zach says that he finds Kelly, they kiss and everything. So they're boyfriend and girlfriend now, and that's basically how the episode ends. But I thought it was an interesting, a little more serious take to the show. There were some jokes here and there, but like I said, it was definitely more serious. And I enjoyed the episode, and I'm excited to see what they do next week. I hear there's They're doing a 2-parter next week.
Interesting.
Back to back. So
It's funny because you telling me about that episode, it sounds actually pretty good. It sounds like I would have liked it.
Mm-hmm.
But I bet you, if I'd actually watched it with you, I wouldn't have. Because you have this way of making things sound more interesting than they actually are.
It's all about the execution, isn't it?
It is.
So you watched Home Improvement. Well, we watched this together, but your pick was Home Improvement.
Yeah, and again, I was not real thrilled with it. TV has been disappointing me lately. But this episode of Home Improvement...
Called, the episode title is Reel Men, REEL.
Right.
As in a fishing reel.
So the episode starts out as it usually does with, Tim causing problems and having accidents and...
With the door.
Yeah, he's kicking a door. They're installing a kick plate on a door, and he lifts his leg and kicks through above the thing. Like, nobody would really do that.
As if the worst problem in the world, by the way, is people kicking at doors.
Right.
You know?
And then Al wants him to go with him to check out a ice fishing shanty.
Yeah.
That he's considering buying
In Saginaw.
Yeah.
In
Michigan, in Saginaw.
That's one of the fun things about this show is that obviously Tim Allen is from Michigan, and the show takes place in Michigan, which is where we live, and they make a lot of those local references, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah, I believe they even live in the Detroit area.
Yes, they do.
So of course Tim is blowing Al off and not wanting to do it until he finds out that Eileen, Al's girlfriend, is going to be at his house because Jill is having a girls' day. Mm-hmm. And the women are going to watch musicals and remove unnecessary body hair.
Right.
So that is the only way that Al would have gotten Tim to go. And they get up there, and Tim is being a real jerk.
Oh, yeah.
He brought a TV, a little portable personal TV.
Mm-hmm. One of those battery-powered ones. I've got one.
Yeah. And, Al's looking forward to spending time bonding with him and talking, and Tim wants nothing to do with it. He wants to just read magazines, watch TV, and so Al's, feelings are hurt, of course. And then Tim, being the idiot that he is, decides that they need a bigger hole because they're not catching any fish. Mm-hmm. And he tries to chisel out a larger hole by removing some pieces of flooring, and of course falls into the frickin' ice.
Yeah.
Idiot. And in the process lost the car keys, so they had to call to get the spare set brought up to them. From
Wilson.
Right. And, I mean, that's not close.
No,
that's
no.
Quite the
it's
hike.
A long drive.
And,
that's probably like a 3-hour drive?
Yeah. So, they're stuck, and Wilson comes and saves them, and Tim's talking about how, Al wants to talk to him and stuff, and how basically, like, making fun of him, and, how he's, I don't know, not being macho or whatever. And Wilson points out that, it's exactly what they do, though. They talk outside to each other. And, that's normal for guys to want to do. So, in the end, Tim, tries to bond with Al and talk to him, I guess, on the ride home. But here's the thing.
We never get to see it.
No, we just hear about it. But here's the thing. In the meantime, while they're waiting for Wilson, he decides to try to fix the heater, which, of course, isn't broken, and sets the fricking place on fire, burns down the fishing shanty.
Right, which was the one that Al was looking to buy, which was their friend Marv, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now Marv can't sell the fishing shanty, and Al can't buy it. So, way to go, Tim. And then, the girls, of course, have their girl weekend with the waxing and the musicals. And
we don't see much of it.
No.
A couple conversations here and there.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it was okay. It was an okay episode. It didn't impress me. It wasn't great.
I will say I don't like this show that much. It's okay, but it's certainly not my favorite show. And I've never, since we're in season 3 now of it. And, it's kind of cool, some of the some of the Michigan references, like I said, and it's funny occasionally, but for the most part, I don't really get into it. But it's the number 2 show in the country. So, I mean, obviously, I am in a minority of not really being huge into this show.
Well, I mean, I'll say it doesn't make me laugh as much as I think it makes some people laugh, but like for me, I find it comforting almost.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's just, it's a classic American family, and whatever problems they have, they're solved by the end of the episode.
Well, I'll tell you, ABC, has definitely got a hit on their hands with the show. This and Roseanne have really transformed ABC's fortunes and cut in at least a little bit to the must-see TV on NBC. Because, obviously NBC has a stranglehold on a lot of the primetime stuff. And Fox isn't a player at all, really. I mean, they have a couple, they have The Simpsons, they have Married with Children, that do well on Sunday, and, not much else outside of that. And then CBS is, for grandparents, basically. But Murder, She Wrote, and stuff like that. But, they've really, those two programs have really helped, and ABC kind of cut in a little bit to NBC's hold on primetime television, which is, it's good to have some diversity there.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, if I assume since it's such a highly rated show, I assume the Home Improvement's going to run for a while.
Yeah.
And when it's over, I don't know if Tim Allen's going to do movies. I don't know if he's going to go back to stand-up. I don't know if he's going to stay on television. Sometimes, like Ron Howard, who directs, he's doing some directing now. He did Splash. But he, and some other stuff. But, he was on, what's that show? The Andy Griffith Show.
Yeah.
And then
a little boy, right?
Right. And then he did Happy Days. So a lot of times people will go from one sitcom to another. So I don't know if he's going to do another show after this, but I'll tell you what, if he does, I guarantee you that ABC will keep him for as long as they possibly can, because he's making a ton of money for them.
Yeah.
So if he wants, like I said, I'm sure, and like I said, it's not going to be anytime soon. I'm sure this show will go on for a long time because it's such a big hit. But, anytime afterwards, if he wants to do another sitcom, I'm sure ABC will roll out the red carpet for him on it. But yeah, so that's our TV picks of the week. That's the shows that we highlighted this week. The movie that we saw this week, our main topic, we went to the theater and we saw what is now the number 2 movie in the country. It flip-flops back and forth with Philadelphia. It's been Philadelphia and Mrs. Doubtfire, Philadelphia for several weeks, battling 1 and 2 each week. I believe this week it is the number 2 movie in the country, but it is the Robin Williams-led Mrs. Doubtfire.
Finally, one that we enjoyed. Yay!
Yeah, this is there's a reason that this movie is as popular as it is. It's based on a 1987 novel called Madame Doubtfire, and it's basically the main story is there's a married couple. It's Sally Field and Robin Williams. They have some problems that are highlighted at the beginning of the film. She's very serious, he's very silly, and they end up getting divorced, and he wants to see his kids. He can only see them 1 day a week, every Saturday. Not even for a full night, not even staying the night, just for a short period of time every Saturday. So he wants to see his kids more, and he decides that the way he's going to do it is to dress up as a woman, as an old English nanny, and pretend to be this person, because his ex-wife is looking for a nanny to take care of the kids, so he ends up filling that role in an incredible amount of makeup. So the movie basically focuses on him becoming a better father by playing this role. He's an actor, kind of a, I don't want to say necessarily a failed actor. At the beginning, we see him doing a lot of voiceover work, which it's Robin Williams being Robin Williams, so he's obviously very good at the voiceover work. But he leaves because they're promoting smoking
Right.
in their commercial, and he's morally against that. So yeah, he's an actor. So by playing this character, he becomes a better father, and he improves his life. He kind of sees his shortcomings.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it gives him a different perspective because he's in the home, kind of in that fly on the wall view of his family without him. And his wife, is talking to Mrs. Doubtfire. She thinks, she's talking to a female friend, someone who
Right.
can understand. And in actuality, she's talking about him to him. So, gosh, who wouldn't like to kind of get that perspective someday? But it's a hilarious movie. I mean, yeah, there's some deep tones there, but it is so funny. And how could it not be with Robin Williams?
Yeah, one of the funniest guys around.
Yeah. And one of my favorite scenes is when he goes to see his brother, and his brother dresses him up in all these different ways, different levels of makeup and everything, and he's trying the different accents, trying to, get his look.
There are two very distinct scenes in this movie that you can tell Christopher Columbus, or Chris Columbus, who directed the film, basically said to Robin Williams, let's try some takes. Just ad-lib, whatever you can think of that you think is funny, let's try it.
Yeah.
And you can tell the two distinct scenes are the scene you're talking about where they're dressing him up in the different costumes, and he's kind of he's going for it with each, different thing. And the other one is when he meets with the social worker who's going to check up on his house and his kids and everything. And it just goes from, it's like take. You can see the cuts. And it's obvious, they're not trying to hide them. But it's like him saying something, cut, him saying something. It almost looks like a blooper reel or something,
Yeah.
or something like that. But he's doing just like rapid fire a bunch of different jokes. It's funny. It works for the movie.
Well, and what I think makes it the funniest, though, is the way they wrap it up when she looks at him and goes, do you believe yourself to be funny?
Right, yeah.
I used to. I definitely used to, but today you have proved me wrong.
Right, yeah. So, but yeah, so there's definitely, and I'm sure there's some other ad-libbing from Robin Williams, who is a tremendous ad-libber in the movie that we don't see, but those two scenes, you could definitely tell they stuck out a little bit as these are here just for him to do that, to kind of showcase him. And I think that you need that in a Robin Williams movie. You need a little bit of an area to just showcase because he's so, even as an ad-libber, or an improviser, he's so unique.
Yeah.
With his just rapid fire, like manic kind of delivery.
Yeah, why would you have Robin Williams if you're not going to use Robin Williams for what he is and
Right.
who he is?
Right, exactly. So, yeah, not the kind of talent that we see very often at all. But yeah, the movie is very funny. Howard Shore did the score. He did a decent job. There's a few areas in the movie, especially some of the more emotional crescendos, where they use a lot of Howard Shore's score. But a lot of the music in the movie is not original music for the film. But they use a lot of like "Luck Be a Lady," the big one from Aerosmith, "Dude Looks Like a Lady." There's "Walk Like a Man." So there's a lot of that kind of a motif going on. And like I said, so Howard Shore doesn't get a lot of work in this movie, but the places where his score is highlighted is more as for the emotional resonance, and that does a good job. But yeah, it's a very good blend of comedy and emotion, which is something Robin Williams seems to do really well.
Yeah.
He's done some more serious films like Dead Poet Society, Good Morning Vietnam. There's obviously humor in there, but they're more serious in tone. And, he's a very good actor, just as a straight actor, letting alone the comedic sides of him. And, he does seem to do this blend really well where there's, an emotional connection as well as it's a very funny movie.
Oh, yeah. I loved this movie, and I think that everyone will love this movie. I don't see any problems with it. There's nothing to really criticize, in my opinion. I mean, it's just good.
No, there's nothing that really stands out as far as I can see, as far as what I would criticize about the movie. I mean, Sally Field does a good job. Maybe you could say she's slightly underutilized in the film.
Yeah.
She puts in a good performance as she usually does, but there's not a lot of her in the film. She doesn't get a lot to do. The kids, one of them is a Lawrence. There's a bunch of these Lawrence kids. Joey Lawrence is the one that what we all know, obviously, from Give Me a Break when he was a kid in the 80s. But he has brothers that do. I see them pop up in different things.
The
sometimes.
son is related to Joey Lawrence?
Yeah,
oh,
that's his brother.
Okay.
Yeah, so I like him actually. I think he does a pretty good job,
Yeah.
and he reminds me a lot of Joey Lawrence. The youngest daughter,
she's adorable,
is very cute. The oldest daughter, I think, it's like with a lot of child actors. There are a couple scenes that stand out to me where I don't think it's the strongest acting I've ever seen, but obviously she's young. I'm not gonna sit here and destroy a 13-year-old kid.
Right.
For her acting things. There are a couple of the emotional scenes, especially when she comes outside after the first day that Mrs. Doubtfire's been there and she apologizes to her, where the acting's really strong. She really puts a lot of emotion behind it, and you can see that she's got some chops. So it's a little uneven in certain areas. But that's to be expected from a younger actor. And she's not in the movie a lot either. His brother is, I can't remember his name. I'm trying to think of his brother's name. He is hilarious. I love, Harvey Firestein. I think that's his name. But he's hilarious in a lot of stuff that I've seen him in. And he works really well with Robin Williams. They're very funny together. I can't think of anything big that I would criticize the film for. I'm trying to think. It's very obvious they're in San Francisco.
Yeah. But
I guess there's no way to get around that because it really does appear as if they filmed in San Francisco.
Yeah. And you know who I do recognize, whose name I do know though? Pierce Brosnan.
Oh yeah, Pierce Brosnan's in the
is
movie.
The love interest of the mom, and oh my, Pierce Brosnan. There's a pool scene, and he's not just Pierce Brosnan. He's Pierce Brosnan with money. So I mean, he's super hot, super hot. I'm a little jealous of Sally Fields in this movie, I gotta say.
Yeah, well, yeah, Pierce Brosnan is. And it's another one where he's not in the film a super amount either.
Right.
But he does, Pierce Brosnan's always done a good job. Remington Steele was one of my favorite shows when I was a kid.
Really?
That he was on. Oh yeah, I thought that was. See, I like Get Smart. I watch that on Nick at Night.
Okay.
Still sometimes. So that kind of I'm a spy, or I'm supposed to be the spy, but I'm an idiot kind of thing is, I always thought that he was very funny in Remington Steele, and I liked that a lot. Obviously, he's been in several films. There was talk of one of the worst ones I ever saw him in, and it's not because of him, but it's called The Lawnmower Man, which was a adaptation of a Stephen King short story. And it's not even... I heard that Stephen King hates it. Stephen King doesn't even want his name associated with it.
Wow.
Well, Stephen King's short story was basically... it was completely different from this movie. Because the movie is about like the internet and cyber type stuff, and this guy goes into a computer and like becomes a genius and then evil. And it's terrible.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
Pierce Brosnan's in that, but I've heard that when he was on Remington Steele, they offered him or they wanted him for 007 for James Bond.
Okay.
And he couldn't do it because of his television contract or whatever. They, obviously Timothy Dalton did it for the longest. Well, not the longest, but for a while. And, there hasn't been a James Bond movie in a while. And I'm telling you, I think if they could circle back to him, I think he would make a good James Bond.
Yeah, I think so too.
So,
that debonair thing going on.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, they stick with the English and Irish and Scottish actors, and stuff like that. They any parts of the realm, I suppose. But because he is Irish, not English. But Sean Connery is Scottish, so
yeah,
it doesn't have to be strictly English. Roger Moore and Timothy Dalton were English. But yeah, so if they ever decide to start doing those movies again, I think he would be a good choice.
Yeah, I think so too.
I don't know that I can even think of somebody who would be a better choice. An English actor, today.
I don't know.
Yeah, I can't think of one. But yeah, as far as the film goes, I'm trying to think if there's anything like I'm trying to pick up the gauntlet that you threw down about something to criticize this movie for, but I really can't think of anything. I mean, I'm not saying it's a perfect film, but
it's damn near close.
But there's not much I can think of to criticize about it. I suppose, that some people... No, I can't even think about it. I can't even think that. I'll tell you what, though. One thing that I thought was interesting is, as Mrs. Doubtfire, he takes a bus home every night. Mm-hmm. And there's this bus driver, older gentleman bus driver.
Yeah.
That seems to like him and flirts with him and everything. And I kind of thought about what he thinks. Because one day... Mrs. Doubtfire just doesn't come on the bus anymore. Because obviously, at the end of the movie, it's revealed that he is pretending to be Mrs. Doubtfire. He gets this cool new job, and, everyone finds out who he really is, and, things get wrapped up in the end. But, so he stops going on the bus as Mrs. Doubtfire. So one day he just disappears. And if he ever sees the show where he's playing Mrs. Doubtfire, he's going to realize, hey, that's the woman from the bus, and then he looks at the credits and sees it's played by a man.
Yeah, that would be weird.
It's just devastating for this bus driver.
Just like the D&D chat room,
That's right. We're bringing it back full circle. But, yeah, so I guess we will end this week, as we end every week, with our blockbuster picks of the week. So several movies have come out to video this week. The Rookie of the Year came out. I was trying to think. Black Death. There's some other. That's a kind of obscure horror movie.
Yeah, I've never heard of that one.
But there were several that came out to video this week that are on the new release shelves. But we've picked two. Carol, you're going to talk about
Coneheads.
Okay, based on the Saturday Night Live skit from the 70s.
Definitely recommend this one. It is so funny. Family of aliens, and they move in, and
Dan Aykroyd and Jane Curtin, who portrayed the Coneheads originally on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, and there's teenage daughter trying to date a human. It's just kind of bizarre situations.
Yeah, and a guy I like a lot, Chris Farley. From Saturday Night Live. Obviously, this is a Lorne Michaels and Saturday Night Live produced film. So Chris Farley is in it. He is, he might be one of the funniest guys alive right now.
You think so, huh?
Well, he's so funny on Saturday. I know Saturday Night Live's having some problems with ratings. They're not doing too well. I mean, they're even talking about possibly canceling the show.
Okay.
Which might not be a bad idea, honestly. It's been 20 years. But, we'll see how things go. But anyway, but he is hilarious. And I enjoy Saturday Night Live. With Adam Sandler and him and a bunch of guys. But he's one of those guys where it's a lot of physical comedy because he's a big guy and everything, and he's doing a lot of physical comedy. But in this movie, you see the understated, very sweet side of him because he just plays this very sweet and understanding human guy dating this conehead girl. Obviously, I have no idea they're aliens,
right.
or anything. And the basic plot is that the government is coming after trying to find them, and everything. And but yeah, Chris Farley just plays this like very sweet, loving boyfriend, and it's perfect performance. I mean, he's great in the film. But the film as a whole is hilarious. I don't know if any of you guys saw it in the theaters. If you haven't, you really need to get down to Blockbuster and check out one of their copies. It is a very solid, funny film. A very good film.
Yep, definitely recommend it.
The one that I picked is sort of a, I don't even know how to describe, I guess a sentimental pick for me. The Sandlot. This movie came out last year. It wasn't huge in the theaters. I'm hoping that it picks up more steam on videotape, as some of these movies seem to, especially movies like this that are kind of more timeless. But this takes place in the early 60s, and it's about a boy who moves to town, doesn't know anybody, and ends up becoming friends with these guys that play baseball. Has no idea about baseball, anything about baseball, learns how to play baseball, and it's one of those, it's like a summer in the life of these kids. It's a coming of age type of thing. They go through an adventure together. His stepdad, played by Dennis Leary, his ball gets lost and signed by Babe Ruth.
Oh.
And this dog called the Beast gets it. It was big Saint Bernard that everyone in town is terrified of because he's so big and scary looking. So they're trying to find ways to get it from over the fence and everything. And so like I said, it's like coming of age adventure. It's got a lot of that nostalgia from the 60s, so parents can get into it from that perspective as well. And it's a really funny, like, feel good kind of movie. It's one of those movies where you can sit and you can watch with your friends and really just kind of enjoy it. It's like, I don't know how else to, like, you're not gonna laugh out loud. It's not the most hilarious, raucous comedy that you've ever watched. It's not a big melodrama or anything. It's just a really, like, fun kind of, I care about these characters, I care about this story movie. But it's definitely a good one, so run down to Blockbuster and check that out if you get a chance.
Sounds pretty charming. I now I want to see it. I didn't want to see it. Now, see, you make everything sound great.
It's a very good movie. I like it a lot. But yeah, so that is our show for this week. Where are we at? We're at what is the date today? It's January 29th. January 29th, 1994. That is the date, right? The 29th today?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay, so that is our show for January 29th, 1994. Take care, everybody. As always, like I said, if you want to give us $1, just slip that into Carol's locker.
My locker only?
Right. She doesn't want me to handle any of the money. She wants to handle the money. And I'm fine with that.
Yeah, he'll lose it.
But, yeah, pitching pennies or something, right? Or I'll give it to Jenny.
Have a good week, everybody.
See you next week. Bye.